Hello and welcome to Payoff Pitch, Action Network's Major League Baseball betting podcast presented by BetMGM. I'm Sean Zerillo, joined today by Tanner McGrath. We have a loaded episode for you today. Obviously, Friday's full 15-game slate, but we're also going to talk some futures, some second half looks, and actually have an early pick for Monday's Home Run Derby. We're still going to have episodes, our regular episodes on Monday and Tuesday, our normal schedule. We're going to talk some Home Run Derby bets for the Monday podcast, and we're going to talk some All-Star Game for the Tuesday pod. I'm going to have content coming out next week also for the All-Star Game, for the Home Run Derby, and then for second half futures, some of which we will start discussing today. But first, we're going to jump into Friday's 15-game slate. We're going to get started with some best bets. Tanner, why don't you kick things off?
Thank you for having me on, Sean. I am really excited to hear about your early Home Run Derby pick. My best bet for Friday's slate is going to be the Twins on the money line at the Giants around 10 p.m.-ish. Anything minus 150 or better is good to me. I got minus 135 on Thursday night. Zerillo, here are some stats of the Twins lineup against left-handed pitching over the past month. They have a 46% hard hit rate, a 10% barrel rate, a 29% fly ball rate, an 86% zone contact rate, a 14% strikeout rate, insanely low, 241 ISO, 1.038 OPS, and a 436 WOBA. The
and
Twins
all
are
Royce Lewis basically too.
Yeah, I know. They are obliterating southpaws. During the stretch, they posted a 192 WRC plus. And why should I have confidence in Kyle Harrison, who starts for the Giants on Friday? You know, he has earned run indicators in the mid fours, subpar stuff metrics, relies very heavily on a low velocity four-seam fastball. The Twins rank fourth among MLB lineups in weighted fastball runs created, by the way. Conversely, I feel pretty good about backing Joe Ryan, who starts for the Twins on Friday. I mean, we all like the guy. I know you like the guy. His fastball velo is up this year. He's still commanding and locating pretty well. His earned run indicators are closer to 3. He can be a bit Jekyll and Hyde, inconsistent, but I can see a big start from him because the Giants are much better against left-handed pitching than right-handed pitching. So they're in their worst split on Friday. I actually really like both bullpens, but I think the Twins have the better bullpen overall. I mean, Minnesota ranks top 10 in reliever, Fangraphs WAR, and expected FIP, and they posted an 18% strikeout minus walk rate over the past 2 weeks. The Giants have been slightly worse on the season, and they're slumping. They've posted a 4.9 ERA over the past 2 weeks. And of greater importance, the Twins were off yesterday on a travel day while the Giants had a dogfight with the Blue Jays. The Giants were warming up the bullpen in the fourth. Jordan Hicks had a little bit of a tough start. So with some reliever and rest advantage to the Twins, I think they're going to win this game with ease behind Joe Ryan, and I love the Twins on the money line for Friday.
So just in terms of projecting this out, my model wants me probably to bet the Giants or pass. I made this closer to about minus 110, minus 115, and I saw some plus 120s out there. But yeah, I don't really want to bet the Giants. I think this Twins offense is like starting to come into peak form, and I think they're going to be a really dangerous team in the second half. We'll talk about that more a little bit later on, but their lineup is deep and dangerous, and Brooks Lee is definitely added an element to it, being able to hit from both sides of the plate. And once Royce Lewis gets back in there, if they're able to find a way to get Lewis and Lee and all these guys together, I think their offense is really dynamic. Matt Wallner hitting the crap out of the ball. So yeah, I think the Twins are a team to keep an eye on in the second half. For me, it's probably Giants or pass, but I don't like the way Kyle Harrison's trending. I think he may even be hiding an injury. The interesting thing here, both Harrison and Ryan both give up a ton of fly balls, and this is the park where you want to be if you're going to give up fly balls. Oracle Park is the lowest home run park factor for any park in baseball. So I'd probably lean under, considering they're both probably going to give up a lot of balls in the air. I could see Harrison imploding. Like I'm a little bit worried, both from I definitely wouldn't bet Giants and under. I'd probably pick one or the other, and I'd probably lean under. But I wouldn't want both because I think Harrison has some implosion potential. I think he may be slightly injured, but he does pitch better at home than on the road. That's definitely worth keeping in mind. And a lot of that is due to the fly ball thing, but also strikeout minus walk rate is better at home. So good look from
the Twins are just obliterating left-handed pitching. I'm just saying the Twins have just been obliterating left-handed pitching, and that's what I'm thinking about with Kyle Harrison, who has been fine but not great. And all of a sudden, you're running into the hottest lineup in baseball against southpaws. Like, I think they're gonna explode on him, honestly.
And they're scary against righties too. Like it's not,
Yeah,
the Giants
absolutely.
I target against lefties because they have a bunch of right-handed bats. Their splits are better against lefties. I like them against lefties, hate them against righties.
Yeah.
Another reason to detract from them in this game. The Twins are
Mhm.
scary to me now against both lefties and righties. I think this offense is really dangerous, really deep. You look 1 through 9, they can hit. And I have some preseason World Series futures on the Twins. I bet against them to win a division, but I thought if they got to October, they would be the most dangerous team from the AL Central. And I still think that is the case, given the arms they have at the top of their rotation and the lineup depth at the moment. And they have pretty good bullpen too.
They have a great bullpen.
Yeah.
I love the bullpen. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So turning to my best bet for Friday slate, taking the Seattle Mariners -140 in both halves. Currently at that price in both halves, I would prefer the first 5 innings because I project them as -150 favorites, or I should say -165 favorites for the first 5 innings, closer to -150 for the full game. So price targets -150 first 5, -140 full game. Ryan Wu coming back off of the IL, but it was for a hamstring injury, not an arm injury, which is very important. He's been phenomenal this season. 2.1 expected ERA, 104 stuff plus, 109 location plus. And obviously, Tyler Anderson, been one of my name nemesis this season. We got him 2 starts back for 6 runs. I didn't bet against him in his last start, which was good because he had his best start maybe of his career, certainly this season. 7 shutout innings, 10 strikeouts against the Cubs. But back on the Anderson fade train in this start. As I said, just didn't project value betting against them last time out. Do project value here. The concern is the Mariners offense. They've been dreadful this year. They're 22nd in weighted runs created plus, 26th on base percentage, 28th in slug. Seemed like Julio might be heating up the other day, but looking at his strikeout numbers over the past, couple weeks, his plate discipline is still a mess. Obviously, all the talent in the world, but Julio really struggling, and Jorge Polanco looks like a corpse, and this Mariners offense really needs to add some bats to avoid a second half collapse. Again, another team we will be discussing at the end of this podcast from a futures perspective. The AL West race, certainly very interesting right now, but Mariners for me in both halves, my best bet for Friday's slate. If you can get it at the same price, prefer the first 5 innings, as I set up to -150 in the full game to -140. Let's look at some underdogs for Friday. Not too much that really caught either of our attention. 1, maybe 2 plays for me, probably more like 1. But Tanner, why don't you go and kick things off with the Toronto Blue Jays?
First of all, before I start, did you know that Tyler Anderson has 4.1 baseball reference WAR and 1.3 Fangraphs WAR? That is a crazy difference.
I've never seen a split like that. Yeah.
It's insane. Yeah. And so for my best underdog bet for Friday slate, I don't mind the Blue Jays at anything plus money. It's about 10 p.m. Eastern time in Arizona. I just think the Jays are super undervalued. I think that they have gotten so unlucky at the plate this year. I mean, Bo Bichette's BABIP is catastrophically bad, despite his contact rates actually going up. Vladdy has more hard hit balls than any player in baseball except for Shohei Ohtani, and he has nothing to show for it. He's finally starting to see positive regression. Luckily, he has a 143 WRC plus since June 1st. George Springer is hitting again. I thought he was totally washed. I thought he was over the hill. I thought his power was gone. Yet he has the 6th highest WRC plus among qualified hitters over the past 2 weeks, a whopping 240 mark, behind 4 homers and a 12% walk rate. So the Jays have won, 2 straight series, and I think the move for the Blue Jays at the deadline is to hold. I think that they need to hold, maybe make a small buy to upgrade their bullpen, which has been awful, and then just kind of try to relock in for next year where they could get some better batted ball luck. On the flip side, Zerillo, I know you love Ryan Nelson, who is supposed to start on Friday, but is not actually confirmed for the Diamondbacks, so keep an eye on that. But his stuff profile is down considerably from last year. So he had a 117 plus stuff plus mark across his arsenal his rookie year. It's down to 95 this season. His expected run indicator is around 4.5. He isn't striking out anyone and is showing very questionable command. For example, I mean, his strikeout minus walk rate has dipped underneath 10%. The velocity on his secondaries was down slightly in his most recent start against the Padres, which makes me a little even more worried. And his batted ball profile is mediocre at best. I mean, 10% barrel rate, 42% hard hit rate. I'm scared of backing the Blue Jays' Yariel Rodriguez, who will start on Friday. He's very erratic, very wild, but his underlying statistical profile indicates he can't be worse than Ryan Nelson. And, expected run indicators in the low fours, pitching plus mark just below league average. He has a decent slider, I guess. I hate the Jays bullpen. It's among the worst in baseball, but Arizona relievers have not been much better. I mean, 4 losses over the past 2 weeks. The Snakes have a negative bullpen Fangraphs WAR on the year, joining the Jays, Rays, and Rockies as the only 4 teams to do so. And they ranked 25th in bullpen pitching plus. So the Diamondbacks are tough to gauge in the lineup, which also scares me, but I think there's enough positive regression coming for the Jays to justify them as an underdog in this situation.
Keep an eye on the Diamondbacks bullpen on Thursday. They're still underway in progress with the Atlanta Braves, but they've had a very difficult high stress series with the Braves. And they did in San Diego last weekend as well. So they've just been playing their bullpen, or they've been deploying their bullpen very aggressively, and their key relievers keep getting used over and over. So if you see guys like Mantiply or Thompson or Ginkel or Martinez or Seawald get used, even 3 of them get used on Friday, I'm probably going to like the Jays, or at least push this game like right in line with where the market is. I think I make it about minus 105 currently. So there's no value on it for me personally, but definitely keep a close eye on that Diamondbacks bullpen, because as much as I don't like the Jays bullpen and agree with Tanner, I think Diamondbacks bullpen, when they don't have those high leverage guys available, it's a disaster. When they have to start going to guys like Vieira and Castellanos and Bryce Jarvis, those are not quality long reliever, middle reliever.
They're very shallow in the bullpen, very shallow in the bullpen.
And in the playoffs last year, when you're getting that day of rest every 2 days and you can go high leverage, high leverage, high leverage, day of rest, and then you reset them and line them up again, they were great. But the depth is what's going to kill them in the regular season. Having to play 7 days in a row, not getting that off day, leading into this All-Star break. They didn't have an off day today. They didn't have an off day Monday. So their bullpen is shot for this weekend just before the All-Star break. So I think this is a good situation for the Jays to potentially steal some games on the road against a banged up bullpen. And I think they'll also avoid Gallen, and they're going to avoid Fott too. So they'll probably avoid the Diamondbacks' 2 best starters.
And they're also just due for a few more wins. Like the Jays have gotten so unlucky in the first half. It's been a brutal season for them. I feel like they're going to steal a few more wins in the second half than you would expect.
Yep. No, I don't disagree. It depends what they do at the deadline, but the AL East is just really strong. It's tough to not.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs or anything, but I am saying that they got super unlucky in the first half. Yeah, and they really like Vladdy and Bo should have had a much better first half, and really the Jays are better than their record indicates.
And that's what catches my eye. Like when when these lower rung AL East teams, or when like the Red Sox are playing the Nationals, or like when when the AL East teams, a really deep division, probably the deepest division in baseball, when they're going out of division and playing like lesser clubs, I think the class difference is even more substantial than you think, given the difference in records.
Yeah, all 5 teams in that division are outstanding, honestly. Like,
I mean, if you put the Jays,
you can find strengths in all 5 teams. You know what I mean?
You put any of them in the NL Central, they're vying with the Blue Jays.
They're absolutely winning. Yeah.
So the one underdog who might have caught my eye for Friday, the Baltimore Orioles. I need to go back and rejigger for the Pens based on their usage, but probably taking them at plus 116. My initial projection was about plus 105, so plus 115 would be my cutoff. Cade Povich makes me a little nervous, but he's shown, or I should say he's looked much less nervous at home than he has on the road. His command has been a disaster on the road. He got lit up in his last start. He faced the Yankees in Yankee Stadium, walked 5 guys, only gave up 1 run, kind of got away from it, or kind of got away with it. But his command has just been better at home. And I don't know if it's a nerves thing. I don't know if, whatever you want to call it. he kind of projects as like a 4.5 ERA type guy. That's where I have him. His expected ERA this year is about 3.9. Toss that out. I'm going with that 4.5 projection. Garrett Cole, I've upgraded Garrett Cole back to where he is and where he should be, which is like a 3.6, 3.5 type ERA projection. It's really funny with Garrett Cole. He finally won his Cy Young last year. It was like the worst year he's had in several seasons. The metrics dipped, the stuff plus dipped, the velocity dipped, the strikeout rate dipped, but he finally won the Cy Young. And I don't know if it was like the pitch clock that took something out of him or if he's just thrown a lot of innings and eventually is going to decline anyway. But regardless, Garrett Cole is still phenomenal, but he's not like at the peak with the Houston Astros level that he was, or even his first year or two with the Yankees. I think there was like a slight dip last year. And you may not notice it because he won the Cy Young, but it is there. So
he stranded 81% of runners.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And that strikeout minus walk rate dip, like I do think to a degree it was the pitch clock. He just doesn't have as much. When he was in Houston, he was taking like 35 seconds between pitches and loading up as much as he could on that fastball. With the pitch clock, I don't think he has the ability to do it. I've watched him in some starts in the heat in the summer where he's like really laboring when he gets into long at bats with foul balls. So yeah, it's not going to be particularly hot tomorrow night. It's not sweltering August Saturday day game, but all that said, I still make Baltimore about plus 105 here. So gonna take Baltimore to extend their divisional lead and get back on track. They were swept at home by the Cubs today, their first home sweep since 2021. But Cubs are playing good baseball. I think the Cubs are the other team that might be worth a look from an underdog perspective. This is just completely anecdotal, but college football rivalry games, like your real main rival, throw out the spread, right? They always seem like they're closer than it could be a 3-touchdown favorite. It doesn't matter. Like the game's going to end up being one score. I'm not saying every game. But I feel like when you play your main rival, no matter the sport, Cubs, Cardinals, Yankees, Red Sox, I feel like the games are like always closer than the line indicates. Again, this is just completely anecdotal. This is from 35 years of watching sports. This is from 5 years of, publicly betting baseball every day and paying very close attention to what goes on. So I don't know. Cubs at plus 166. Obviously, the Cardinals have a lot of familiarity with Kyle Hendricks, but the Cubs are playing good ball right now. They're sweeping Baltimore in Baltimore. Absolutely no easy task. And I think there's, on paper, like the Cubs and the Cardinals are pretty much the same team to me. Obviously, Sonny Gray, a better pitcher than Kyle Hendricks, but interested in the Cubs about plus 170 if I can get it. Made that closer to plus 155. So waiting for that number to come up. Tanner, any thoughts on the Orioles or on the Cubs or any final bets that you may have for Friday's slate?
Well, on the Cubs, I mean, you said it like over the past 5 years, just like watching it. This is why we always bet big divisional underdogs because they always play divisional teams a little bit tighter than you expect. And my big thought on the Orioles is that I'm looking to fade Garrett Cole as much as possible. Like, I mean, his fastball velocity is down a tick. His advanced pitching model metrics are down 12 points year over year, like 20 points, 30 points from 2022. And like you said, like he finally won his Cy Young last year, but it was behind, like I said, an 81% strand rate and a 9% home run to fly ball factor, which is half of his career average. So I am going to be all over fading Garrett Cole on Friday. And my last bet for Friday, is going to be the Rays on the money line hosting the Guardians, 7 p.m. game, minus 150 or better. I'm going to have a really short handicap here. We can't keep doing this with Carlos Carrasco. He's a mess. His lowered velocity has led to a bigger home run problem than he had before. I think it's going to be Taj Bradley for the Rays on Friday, but even if it isn't, I don't really care because I think that Carrasco, I think he's really cooked. I mean, his velocity is way down. He's trying to flirt with he's trying to nibble around the edges, but he's giving up more walks, but he's still, if he throws that fastball down the middle, it gets hammered. Anyway, I would really like Bradley because he's a stuff plus darling and an Action Network favorite. So it'd be nice to have him on the mound. Also, I think the Rays are playing much better in the past month. Like, I think the bullpen looks much improved after a disastrous start. I really like how, like Pete Fairbanks had a really rough start to the season, and I think he's been pitching a lot better recently. Colin Pache, guys like that, and I think they're going to score a bunch off Carrasco early and then cruise to a victory behind their steadily improving bullpen. So I really like the Rays on Friday.
I have a couple of early weather leans based on, my weather adjustment in the total, not rushing out to bet against Cole Reagans on a day-to-day basis, but the Red Sox and Royals over 9, my initial projection closer to 9.7. It's basically right at the borderline, 9 minus 115. So I want to double check some things. We don't officially have a Boston starter yet either, so that needs to be something that I get confirmed as well. I assume it's going to be Winkowski. But
Yeah, and they'll run with a bullpen day because they've been
yeah,
running a bullpen
which,
day every 5 days
bullpen
without
days,
Cooper Criswell, who's on the IL, I believe.
but bullpen days always like make me reduce the totals eventually because I'm factoring in more pitchers. So there's a chance I don't end up playing this, but it is some over weather in Boston tomorrow. Definitely do not bet that under. It's over or pass, and also Red Sox or pass against Reagans. I do like when the Red Sox run out these bullpen days. They make it very difficult to get clean looks off of the same pitcher. And as I've discussed over the past week or so, the Royals show drastic home road splits. It's like an absolute joke, but they don't strike out at home. They don't walk on the road, and their strikeout and walk rate respectively at home, on the road, sitting around league average. So even
And
I brought this
Andrew
up
Bailey
yesterday.
has fixed the Boston bullpen too. Like
Oh
the Red
yeah,
Sox are a
well,
top 5 bullpen,
and
because they
that's a
just don't throw
different story
fastballs anymore.
entirely. With the Red Sox changing how baseball is being pitched this year, I think we're going to see a lot of teams try to copycat this next season. And I discussed this last week, but if the Red Sox, there's a lot of reasons the Red Sox shouldn't go for it, but the one to go for it is that you're doing something a little bit different this year than everybody else is expecting, and teams still haven't adjusted to it yet. And if you get in the playoffs, you're the one team doing that thing a little bit differently still. So like it gives you an edge, certainly, and they have good pitching, certainly. If they can go out and get another bat and another bullpen arm, I don't mind the Red Sox. But yeah, in terms of that total, Royals Red Sox over, and then Phillies over 8.5, projected this closer to 9. Ranger Suarez finally getting hit in his recent start. He's allowed 15 runs in his past 3 starts. I think the miracle magic run that he had is over. I still think he's a great pitcher, and I think he's better than he has been in other years because he's finally healthy. But once that string of luck breaks, where you have that miraculous scoreless streak, it's over. I made this total closer to 9. So don't love, betting on A's overs because they're the Oakland A's, but their bullpen can certainly give it up to the Phillies. And I wouldn't expect to see any bit of the A's A bullpen tomorrow, considering the Phillies are likely to get out to a lead. Transitioning here between our bets for Friday slate and our future discussion for the second half, I'm going to give out my home run derby selection, which I teased earlier. I was looking through our futures board earlier, and when I went on actionnetwork.com, I saw that we had the ability to track home run odds, and I saw our home run odd shopping tool. If you click on any of the selections in the app, you will see best available odds across 6 to 10 books, whatever you have available for you, for all of the home run derby odds. And Bobby Witt Jr. was at plus 800 at one book when every other book was at plus 600. And that certainly caught my attention, just wanting to pick off the outlier numbers. So I said, all right, I know it's Thursday, but let's start digging into the metrics for the home run derby participants. And it actually surprised me to find that Bobby Witt has the highest maximum exit velocity in the field, which is my favorite stat for looking at derby participants because it gives you an indication of power upside. Number 2, he's second in barrel rate, third in barrels per plate appearance. He also has the longest home run of anybody in the field and the highest average distance for his home runs of all of the players in the field. So handicapping this out, I probably have to make Pete Alonso the favorite based off of experience, number 1. Number 2, he's second in maximum exit velocity. Marcell Ozuna, who nobody wants to bet, his odds will probably float up as a result, but he ranks really highly in terms of barrel per plate appearance. He's up there with Witt in a bunch of the categories, but I think Witt has to be the second or third choice based on the underlying metrics. Was able to get him at plus 800, which was 5th on the odds board, 6th on the odds board. So betting a guy who I think should be second or third in terms of odds when he's lined as the 5th or 6th likeliest winner. Pretty easy bet for me. Like that down to about plus 600 for now. And we'll probably also be targeting his odds to advance out of round 1 when they put those up. It's a different format this year. It's going to be the 4 highest totals from round 1. They're not going to go straight up head to head, which is a better format. So it's going to be like a make-miss playoff market, essentially, a yes-no market to qualify for round 2 that I'm sure we'll find for all of these players. And then maybe we'll be even betting on Witt to hit the longest home run, or, there's other props that we'll search out there in the coming days. But early home run pick, Bobby Witt Jr. down to plus 600. And I think he should be the second choice. Tanner, we're going to pivot to some futures for the second half as we approach the end of the official first half, but most of these teams have played more than 90 games. We're definitely past the 50% mark of the season, closer to the 66% mark.
The All-Star game is the 60% mark of the season. Yeah,
exactly.
People call it the halfway mark, but it really isn't. Yeah.
No August 1st trade deadline this year either. It was August 1st last year, back to July 31st this season. But we're going to go division by division, just give you some thoughts that we have on some of these teams that we may be targeting in the coming days over the next week. And we're going to finish out talking with the 3 main awards markets, obviously going league by league. Tanner, you had some thoughts on your Boston Red Sox. Tell me why.
I do, yes. And people who listen to this podcast religiously, hopefully there are many of you, know that I am a diehard Red Sox fan. And I am really, really interested in Red Sox futures to make the playoffs, to win the American League, to win the World Series. Because, all right, so Dan Sabrowski recently wrote an article about Boston's playoff chances. If you hypothetically added 2 wins to every team in baseball, Boston would have the largest gain in playoff probability odds. They have the most to gain by making like 1 or 2 moves. And look, I don't know if ownership is committed to the team. I don't know if John Henry would let Craig Breslow like sell some of the prospects for a meaningful contributor for this year's team. I mean, for what it's worth, Boston has among the most deepest farm systems in baseball. There are a lot of good players in that farm system, but 1 or 2 moves would make Boston a surefire playoff team. And if I were Breslow and you actually said they should go for like a bullpen arm or for a bat, I would target a starting pitcher. And here's why. The lineup looks really good. Devers and Duran are ascending to new heights. I mean, they have exceeded every possible projection I could imagine. The rookies are making big strides, specifically, Rafaela, Abreu, Hamilton, and Tristan Casas should be back any day now. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I can't talk enough about Devers' developments this year. I mean, his plate discipline, strike zone judgment, swing range, he's like selectively identifying junk pitches and just obliterating them. He's making a fool of every pitcher he faces.
It looks like Jordan.
Yes, exactly. And he is entering his prime in the first year of an 11-year deal, and I'm just so happy about it. But, so obviously like Andrew Bailey and Justin Willard have transformed Boston's pitching staff into a top 5 unit, basically by telling them to, stop throwing fastballs, add some cut, add some sink, throw your best pitches more. But I'm just worried about usage. I mean, Tanner Houck just exceeded his previous single season high in innings. Cutter Crawford is close. Cooper Criswell's injury means they're throwing bullpen games out every 5 Ks, like, just like we talked about. And like, I feel like a reliable quality innings eater would mean the world for this team in the dog days of August. You need enough innings just to get this young staff through the year. And if Boston makes that move, I think the Red Sox are super duper dangerous.
Another concern as well, 5th toughest schedule the rest of the way. And I should mention, the Tampa Bay Rays have the most difficult schedule the rest of the way. But this is a team I was high on coming into the season and said that they would probably be a much better second half team than they were in the first half. And as you mentioned earlier, they are playing better of late, certainly. They also have Jeffrey Springs, Drew Rasmussen rehabbing, Junior Caminero still on the minor league IL, but you may see him in September. I don't love that they've discussed publicly potentially trading guys like Pete Fairbanks or Jason Adams. So that would be like a soft sell or a white flag move potentially. But, looking at the projection market, the Rays between 9% to 18% to make the playoffs still. That's a huge range. It's anywhere between plus 1,100 and plus 450. You know, like when you go down to the 10th percentiles, you can get as high as plus 850. So if you believe in that ATC projection at 18%, plus 850 is a big number. I don't love going against the toughest schedule in baseball the rest of the way. I think there's another team in the AL I'd rather target. To make the playoffs, they're going to have to get ahead of Boston, and they're going to have to beat two of Seattle, Texas, and Kansas City the rest of the way. It seems like a tall task, but I think the Rays, given the numbers, obviously it's a long shot. It's plus 850. I think there is value in it if you could stomach it. If I didn't have any preseason, I would definitely be taking some now. I'll consider poking it for a tenth of a unit at plus 850, but nothing overly serious there. The AL Central, I think there's definitely value on the Minnesota Twins right now to win the division. I can't even argue against it. So you can get as high as plus 210 right now. That lines up with their lowest projection. Bakota has them at 30%, but Fangraphs and ATC have them at 41 to 44% to win the division. The Guardians are running out of pitching depth. They're still throwing out guys like Carlos Carrasco. They started Spencer Howard today. That was a disaster. The Giants gave up on Spencer Howard. I think he's on his 5th team in 4 years. No Shane Bieber. They're going to have to hit their way to the playoffs and use their bullpen the rest of the way. It's kind of a similar story with the Brewers, but I think the Brewers even have slightly more starting pitching depth than the Guardians at this point. So I'm a little bit worried about the Guardians. And I think regardless of whether you have Guardians futures or not, I think there's value on the Twins at plus 210 to make the playoffs. The Guardians also have the second most difficult schedule the rest of the way. The Twins have a league average schedule. So worth noting there too. Tanner, any thoughts on the AL Central? And if not, I know you have some thoughts on the AL West.
Yeah, really quickly on the AL Central. So what's interesting about the Guardians is that they have seen a major increase in offensive production because of the changes to their home park, which has created kind of like so they took out some of the right and left field bleachers, and it's created kind of a wind tunnel, which has carried like way more balls, and now all of a sudden the Guardians are hitting way more home runs and way more doubles. Well, the rotation is also allowing way more home runs and way more doubles. And this is a rotation with historical home run problems. And so far, Cleveland ranks dead last among MLB rotations in starting pitching F4. And I could see it getting worse, honestly, because of that. So that I think the Twins are going to win the Central. I think the Guardians, it's been an amazing story, but I think that the starting pitching is a really big problem.
Yeah, if I was to pick any team that's not currently in first place to win their division from now, I think it's the Twins pretty clearly.
Absolutely.
And definitive value plus 210. There's no arguing against it. Their lowest projection lines up with their odds. It's all upside from there.
And they're a good team. They're a good all around team,
They're geting better too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And Royce Lewis comes back. They find a way to DH him, keep Lee in the field. Like that lineup's loaded potentially. So AL West, both the Mariners and the Astros have top 10 easiest schedules the rest of the way. The Mariners actually have the second easiest schedule. Astros closer to 9th. Projections hate the Rangers. The Rangers were the team I was potentially circling to bet live in season. I have their odds to miss the playoffs and to go under from the preseason. I said around the All-Star break, around now, target them to potentially make it. I don't know. Matt says no. The Astros are potentially talking about acquiring like a star hitter. They've discussed Pete Alonso. I don't know if the Mets are going to make a trade, but I think there's value in the Astros right now. Plus 110 or plus 115 to plus 120. Pacoda has them at 65%. ATC and Fangraphs closer to 41 to 47%. But I think at plus 120, again, you're betting into most likely the lowest end of that projection. I think it's only upside really from there. Tanner, how do you see the battle between Mariners and Astros, and do you think the Rangers are out too?
You said a lot of it. And, it's funny because I have talked about the Astros winning the West so much on this podcast after an insane amount of unlucky close game variance to start the season. The Astros have finally turned things around. And, the bats were always there. Houston has a top 5 lineup, and they've actually thrived in Kyle Tucker's absence, which is surprising. They have a 116 WRC plus over the past month, a 120 over the past fortnight. And that's consistent with their year-long production. But the big thing is that the pitching staff has finally turned things around. I mean, look at Hunter Brown, one of our guys. Like, he's finally starting to live up to his pedigree. before blowing up against Minnesota in his most recent start, he posted 31 innings of 1-run ball across 5 starts, striking out 34 batters in the process. And the bullpen is also performing a little bit closer to where we expected, right? Like Abreu, Presley, Hader, like they haven't been disastrous. And all of a sudden, the Astros, they've won 7 of their past 13 one-run games, right? Which is closer to where we would expect any Major League Baseball team. And I think the Astros, mainly because of their hitting prowess combined with like natural positive regression on the mound, will end up winning the West. Like you said, like Prakota projects they win the division over 65% of the time.
Yeah.
I think that as they continue to see positive regression on the mound and get a little bit healthier with the pitching staff, I think that they are the team to beat in the West, which brings me to the Mariners. And I'm curious, like, have they really played all that well? Like, they're all right. So they're 19-11 in 1-run games. They have a really, really solid pitching staff from the rotation through the bullpen. But like Kirby and Castillo have looked more mortal lately. The bullpen has been more erratic lately. For example, they posted a 9% walk rate over the past month. And I often wonder if the guys on the pitching staff are just like T-Mobile Park merchants, right? Like it's really tough to hit in Seattle. Like, are they really that good? And the bigger problem is that the lineup really can't hit. And I mean, obviously part of that is playing in Seattle, but we've talked about it before. Like even by WRC plus, they posted an 88 mark over the past month, ranking 27th among MLB lineups. Is Julio ever going to turn it around? I mean, obviously he's underperformed his expected WOBA by nearly 50 points, but his hard hit rate is down. And you said it, his plate discipline. That is what really, really concerns me. I mean, a 27% strikeout rate and a 5% walk rate is not going to cut it as a middle over the order presence. Meanwhile, Haniger, Crawford, France have combined for a sub 70 WRC plus over the past month. Yikes. I mean, so look, I've already bet the Astros to win the West a while ago at like I think it was plus 250. But I also might bet the Mariners to miss the playoffs because, they already have the worst record and run differential of any division leader. And if Houston overtakes them, as we expect them to, they'd be right in the thick of the toughest American League wildcard race I can remember. I don't think that they have enough firepower to overtake like Boston, Kansas City, definitely not Minnesota or the Yanks. The Rays even feel super dangerous, and that would be a tough race for Seattle. The Mariners, they can't hit. They're vulnerable in the rotation. The bullpen hasn't been as good as we expected. You can still get Seattle to miss the playoffs at like 2-1 at BetMGM. And I think that, as Houston starts to heat up and nip at their heels, once they overtake them, I think the Mariners might be cooked.
Just talking about, development of superstars, we discussed Bobby Witt bit earlier, and Julio's strikeout minus walk rate his rookie year about 18%. Now it's gone up to 22%. Bobby Witt his rookie year also around 18%, 17%. Now it's down to 10%, 9%. So plate discipline is huge for me. I think back to Carlos Gonzalez, longtime player for the A's and the Rockies. He had phenomenal power and speed like Julio, but he didn't have the plate discipline. And eventually, as you get older, pitchers continue to find the holes in the swing. So yeah, a bit concerning.
Plate discipline gives you a really high floor,
It does.
right? It makes you consistent. And when you don't have good plate discipline, you end up like Julio Rodriguez, right? Where you go through these insane highs and then all of a sudden go to insane lows. And right now he is in a very bad low.
Yeah, even, power hitters too. Pete Alonso this year, obviously not hitting the home runs yet. If you give Pete enough time, he's going to start having his months where he hits 10, 12. It just high fly ball power hitters go through huge streaks where they do nothing. And you're like, this guy sucks. Chris Davis. And then they go binge for like a year, so you really got to catch them in the right year. And that's why it's so hard to bet guys to lead the league in home runs. Obviously Aaron Judge is an exception. But finding your home run leader, the guy who's going to barrel up like the extra number of balls that year, it's tough just because these guys binge and then go in slumps, for long stretches. And you need to find the guy who's hot for 6 months. Let's move to the National League. Speaking of Pete Alonso and the New York Mets, the Mets before winning today, 43 to 48% to win the playoffs, make the playoffs. Projection betting market right now has them between plus 150 and plus 163. So definitive value on the Mets. I mean, plus 150 is 40% implied. So at least the 3% edge there. They have the fifth easiest schedule the rest of the way. They're a much better team with Francisco Alvarez in the lineup. It's so noticeable, not only his offensive contributions, but also the way he handles the pitching staff. I mean, he's the captain of that team. I don't think people realize it yet, but this kid is like fully taken over that clubhouse and is very much seemingly like the leader on that team. It's not Lindor, it's not Alonso. Francisco Alvarez is the heart and soul of that team right now. They have prospects in the minors they're probably going to bring up by the end of the year too. You've seen Christian Scott already. They have Brandon Sproat dominating in Double-A. Luis Angel Acuna has been hitting much better in Triple-A over the past month, 6 weeks or so. I think the Mets are absolutely live. They're exciting. And I'm enjoying watching this team. This is very much not a homer bet. I've been very patient waiting for Alvarez to come back, seeing how they play, making sure they're not going to be in a position where they're going to sell. You know, at this point, assuming Atlanta is going to make the playoffs, which I think we can safely, you have two of Arizona, New York, St. Louis, San Francisco, San Diego fighting for five of those teams fighting for 2 spots. I think I prefer the Mets to that group of 5 teams. How do you rank those teams, Tanner? Just blindly. Arizona, New York, St. Louis, San Fran, San Diego. Where do you put the Mets?
I love the Mets. My problem with the Mets is that it's the starting pitching.
Mm-hmm.
The starting pitching depth is not there. Like I really like what Luis Severino has done this year, actually. And I really, really like Tyler McGill, but I really don't like Sean Manaea. And Christian Scott obviously has the stuff, but hasn't quite settled there yet. Among teams in like the NL wildcard race, I'm really intrigued by the Cardinals. And it's tough because they also have the same problem as the Mets, where like starting pitching could be a problem. But the Cardinals have hit really, really well against right-handed pitching over the past 6 weeks, where they've basically been MLB's best team. They have the best record over the past 6 weeks.
If you exclude the doubleheader yesterday, yes.
Yeah. And I really like the back end of their bullpen. I really like Jojo Romero and Ryan Helsley.
Yeah, their bullpen's great.
I'm really fascinated by the Cardinals. I don't know how I would play them because they're kind of stuck. Like everyone in the National League, it's like a roulette table, right? Like there's like 7 teams that could all make it. So I'm not exactly sure how I would play the Cardinals, but they've intrigued me from day one, and I'm still intrigued.
Yeah, looking at the Cardinals, they're about plus 450 to win the NL Central right now. Milwaukee does have the easier schedule the rest of the way, 5th versus 17th. And St. Louis's projections dropped. As I said, they lost that doubleheader. They were swept yesterday by the Royals. They were 23 to 25% to win the division before the doubleheader sweep. They dropped to 16 to 18% after. So a big drop just by losing 2 games.
It's also really tough because the Brewers are a really good team. They are a really good all around team. You know, they're great defensively. They have enough power in the lineup. They have enough contact in the lineup. They have a decent bullpen with depth, and they have a few starting pitchers that can get them through. Like Milwaukee's a really, really good team.
Yeah, Tobias Myers is solid. They traded for Savali, who's looks pretty solid. I think he had underachieved pretty significantly with the Rays. I mean, I don't love them trotting out Keuchel and Colin Ray all that much, but Myers I think has given them enough, and maybe they go out and get one more arm before the deadline. But Eisen Brewers plus 1,000, you know, from preseason to win the NL Central. Hopefully you tailed along with that. That was very much one of my favorite bets on these podcasts from a preseason perspective. Not interested in heading off with the Cardinals. So it's a pass in the NL Central for me. Finally, the NL West. I don't know if you have any thoughts, Tanner. Just schedules the rest of the way. The Giants, 3rd easiest schedule. Padres, 7th easiest schedule. The Diamondbacks basically have an average schedule. Obviously, projections prefer the Padres. They think they're like a coin flip to make the playoffs. They're as high, though, as 62%, as low as 40%. So there's a pretty big range out there. The D-backs about 27 to 30%. The Giants have a big range too, 16 to 28%. I think of the 3, the Giants are still the most dangerous if they make October because of that bullpen and because of the rotation, potentially having Webb and Snell line up with each other. It's a very scary team if you're going to be playing a short series against that pitching staff, especially if you throw left-handed starters. That's a bad matchup for you. So I think the Padres, though, you know, they're probably the one, I mean, given the math, obviously, but just watching these teams, they seem to have the most depth of the three and the most balance, I would say, of the three.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Like the Padres have the highest floor.
Mm-hmm.
And the Giants, I would say, have the highest ceiling. But the problem with the Giants is that, like if you look at Logan Webb's home road splits, they're pretty bad. And like his hard hit rate, his fly ball rate have kind of increased. And of course, like Blake Snell, it looks like disaster class. And the lineup is a little bit inconsistent. And the thing about the Padres is that they're a pesky contact based lineup, right? Especially behind Luis Ariz and Jerickson Profar. And then they have a little bit of power behind it. So they have such a high floor because they get on base so often. And that's what's scary about the Padres. But I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about one player in the NL West that I'm really, really intrigued by. My toxic trait is that I don't think that Paul Skeens is a runaway favorite for National League Rookie of the Year.
Tougher thing to
He is
say today.
he is I know he was incredible
He
today.
was
He
so
is
good today.
incredible. I am shocked at how good his command has been
I think
too.
he's
Like
a minus 500 live favorite now on Rookie of the Year. So
I
just,
think
just as a
I saw
note, because
minus
everybody else is going to float up tomorrow.
I saw minus 700.
Yeah, crazy.
And like I'm just shocked about like how good he is and how good he is about consistently hitting his spots and avoiding walks and barrels. But I'm very concerned about usage. Like, how many innings will Pittsburgh's front office let Skeens go this year? 130, maybe 140. Their playoff odds chances are less than 10%. And I can't imagine the front office wants to risk their prized prospect's young arm on a long shot bet. And I think that makes him very vulnerable as a minus 700 National League Rookie of the Year favorite. For what it's worth, like no pitcher has ever won Rookie of the Year with fewer than 140 innings pitched. The lowest was Jacob deGrom in 2014 with 140 innings, 2.7 ERA, 3.6 FWAR. My big dark horse, and you're going to disagree, but I am all over this train, is Gavin Stone. Because Gavin Stone, like, he was not even supposed to pitch for the Dodgers this season. But then, Walker Buehler went down. Yamamoto is dealing with an injury. Bobby Miller is a disaster. James Paxton is also a disaster, at least by his underlying metrics. Yet the only qualified pitchers on the team are him and Tyler Glasnow. He has stepped up in a huge way, providing 97 quality innings for a World Series contender at the halfway point. The narrative is 100% there, by the way. His stuff doesn't overwhelm you. Neither do his like underlying metrics, but he's also like a changeup heavy, weak contact guy. And that's often the type of pitcher that will overperform those metrics, especially considering the Dodgers are not a bad defensive team. They're decent in the infield. And so my thinking is like, imagine if Stone throws 40 or 50 more innings than any other rookie pitcher. Imagine he sustains a low threes ERA while doing so. Imagine he helps the Dodgers earn a high seed in the playoffs while Yamamoto is shelved with injuries and Skeens is shelved in September and Imanaga continues regressing. I don't really believe in him, to be honest with you. He has the third most pitching WAR among National League rookies, yet is priced at 40-1. I think he's going to finish top 5 in the voting if he ends up throwing a ton, which, by the way, Fangraphs on Pace Metrics has him throwing 185 innings. The ultimate question is if voters will throw away, workhorse usage in favor of per inning production. And to be fair, voters have trended that way over the past few years. But at 40-1, Gavin Stone might not be the most talented horse in this race, but I think he might be the most dependable. And I think that's worth a long shot flyer.
So between minors and bigs, Skeens is already at 93 innings. He threw, I don't have the total last year from LSU, but my forecast for him is about 150. So I think he has 60 innings, 10 starts left. That gets you through August, maybe the first week of September.
I also think the Pirates have a number in mind for him, right? They're like, we will not let this guy pitch past X innings. And the reason why I'm trying to fade him is if I can get a long shot number, hopefully
Do you wait a month though?
that number is lower than we expect.
Do you wait a month for him to keep racking up these stats and keep becoming a bigger favorite, like expecting him still to get shut down? But like, if he's still pitching well right now, the price only deepens, right? You
So
just
the other guy I
play
was
him?
looking at was and we talked about him, was Joey Ortiz,
Mhm. I
who
like
leads
Merrill.
all. Yeah, obviously Merrill, but I like Joey Ortiz because obviously he leads all rookies in Fangraphs WAR, and he's priced at like 20 to 1, but he's an elite plate discipline guy,
Mhm.
like a 14% walk rate, 16% strikeout rate, and that, like we said, that gives you such a high floor to like you know like also he's a really really good defender at the hot corner, so like that gives you such a high floor for amassing WAR, and I think that Ortiz could be, you wouldn't call him a dark horse, but he could be a serious contender in this race. And so that's the guy that like his odds have jumped, 1,000 percentage points in the last week because of Skeen's dominance. So that's the one guy I would try to buy. But Stone's odds really haven't changed, and I'm still just looking to buy him as much as possible because I really think he's going to finish top 5 in this voting.
Yeah, Ortiz should be off the IL right after the All-Star break. I think he's on rehab right now. I think Jackson Merrill is the one hitter I'd target. I wouldn't even take Ortiz. Merrill has a very strong chance of finishing with the 2020 season. He's also gotten better as the season has gone along, and I believe he's the projected end of season rookie wins above replacement leader in the National League. So that's the thing I care about most. He's projected to finish ahead of Ortiz, and it's kind of neck and neck right now with him and Skeen. So I think it's Merrill or Skeens. I'm actually kind of happy I don't have Merrill 75 to 1 for preseason right now, which it's in my article that I was keeping an eye on it. I missed it because he played so well early in spring and earned that roster spot. But I said I was keeping an eye on him and Waller and didn't fire on either. But I think I'd be pretty frustrated right now if I was holding a big Jackson Merrill ticket, seeing what Paul Skeens is doing, because there's no way to hedge at this point. My goodness. Speaking of pitcher usage and whether a guy's going to make it to the end of the year, AL Rookie of the Year, Luis Gil started to seem like he was starting to hit a wall. Great in his last start. And the Yankees obviously need him and need the innings through the end of the season. Do you see anybody worth betting against Gil at this point? Because I didn't think I did.
I think that Luis Gil is very, very vulnerable at the
Mm.
top of the American League Rookie of the Year awards. So I like, as a Red Sox fan, I watched every one of those games, and him and Cutter Crawford got really lucky in that start. The umpire had a really, really wide strike zone, and for some reason, like every single batted ball died at the tracks. Like there should have been like 4 more home runs in that game. Look, he has a 76% strand rate and a 210 BABIP. Like for a while, he had the highest strand rate and the lowest BABIP among qualified pitchers. And when you're walking, it looks like when you're walking 12% of batters, that we talk about like high floors, that gives you a really low floor, because if you start to get in trouble with ducks on the pond, that completely messes with your overall profile. So I think he's in a serious vulnerable spot. In terms of other players, though, if I the problem is that like Boston's rookies, while they've been amazing, have been all overperforming. Like
Mm.
Cede and Rafaela, Willie Abreu, David Hamilton, like their expected WOBAs are like 30 points lower. The one guy I would look at is Colton Cowser for Baltimore. I think that his quality of contact numbers actually back up what he's done on the field, and that would be the one guy I'd look at in that market.
Yeah, Brooks Lee came up with the past week. He hasn't stopped hitting. It's one of the best bats in the minor leagues, taken in top 5 in the draft in 2022, I believe. And the one concern with him, otherwise I would absolutely be firing on Brooks Lee right now at 35 to 1, even though he only has half a season to work with. Where does he play when Royce Lewis comes back? Just worried about playing time. Obviously, he's not going to be this hot forever, but I think Brooks Lee, it wouldn't shock me if he's in the mix or in the top 3 at the end of the year. He is a phenomenal bat. The question was always where they were going to play him defensively. He dealt with some injuries earlier this year, finally looks healthy and absolutely raking. So Brooks Lee should continue to shoot up that odds board. I just don't know if he has enough time left, and I don't know if he's going to get enough playing time, even with the time that he has. AL Cy Young, we both have Tarek Skubal from preseason in pretty good shape as of now. Looking at the end of season projections, Garrett Crochet, George Kirby, 2 and 3, depending on the projection system. Cole Reagans, Tanner Houck, 4 and 5 in end of season projected WAR in the American League. Not really interested in hedging against Skubal at this point. nor do any of the other contenders particularly interest me. I do have some Kirby as well preseason. I guess Houck would be the one arm that I was looking at earlier just because of the projected end of season rankings and his odds. But as Tanner mentioned, like he's getting up, or he's going to be rubbing up against his innings limit already. You kind of need 180 innings to be in Cy Young consideration, or 165 to 180 is the minimum that you need there. Crochet,
And he's already looked a little bit worse too. Like Tanner
yeah,
has, you can see, I think that he's starting to wear down,
I
and that
agree.
obviously worries me as a Red Sox fan. But he just like he hasn't pitched that many innings yet, and he's been amazing. But I really think regression's in the future for him.
And I love Garrett Crochet and Jack Flaherty, but I think they're both serious trade candidates for their respective teams. So not really trying to fire a Cy Young bet on a guy who may not even be in the American League 3 weeks from
If
now.
I
Anything for you
were
and AL
to
Cy Young?
fire an American League Cy Young like long shot bet, it would be on Flaherty,
Mm-hmm.
who it just continues to strike out batters at like an unbelievable rate. And obviously, you can't tell because he's a trade candidate. You don't know if he's going to be in the American League, but that's the one guy that could like skyrocket up the odds boards
Yeah.
just because he continues to strike out so many batters. And I don't even know why. Like, it's not like he has like amazing stuff. I think it's his. I think it's his extension. I think, and I think he has like a good like induced vertical break, but I don't know. He's been amazing.
Throwing the slider as hard as he ever has, Jack Flaherty. I completely agree. Like, I think he's super viable at 40 to 1, but every time he starts, it's like, where is Jack Flaherty going to get traded to? The Tigers 4 or 5 games below 500. I think he gets traded. I just don't know if it'll be in the AL or not. So yeah, Flaherty, like maybe worth a poke at 35, 40 to 1, but you
Yeah.
may be tearing it up in a few weeks. National League Cy Young, I'm actually interested in Chris Sale. Chris Sale not only is the National League WAR leader right now ahead of Zach Wheeler, he also projects to be the end of season WAR leader by both updated end of season projection systems. I believe that's Steamer and Zips that I looked at for those. He also has the advantage on Wheeler in terms of strikeouts, and the number 2 most important category for determining Cy Young winners after wins above replacement, strikeouts, total strikeouts, strikeout ranking. So Chris Sale should be the favorite for me ahead of Zach Wheeler right now. I guess, though, if you want to argue and factor in for past health issues, you could put Wheeler ahead of him. I don't think Wheeler, though, is any safer in terms of like an injury history over the final 3 months right now, given what we know, than Sale. So Sale at plus 175 or pass for me in NL Cy Young. Anything you're targeting for NL Cy Young, Tanner?
I am so happy you brought up Chris Sale because he should absolutely
Favorite.
be the favorite for
Yeah.
National League Cy Young. He has been the best pitcher in the National League this year. His slider is all the way back. You know, like that huge sweeping glove side breaking pitch that just like fools hitters has been amazing. He's also worked a little bit more on his like changeup and sinker, which has helped him neutralize righties a little bit, which he really struggled with facing righties in his last few years in Boston. He has been nothing short of spectacular. He has been the best pitcher in the National League, and I think he will continue to be the best pitcher in the National League, especially considering I believe Wheeler left
I was about to say, so Wheeler,
Thursday
they're
night
skipping
start
Wheeler
early.
Sunday. He's going to miss the All-Star game, and they expect him to be back after the All-Star break, but he's clearly dealing with something. So there you go. Chris Sale should be the favorite.
Yeah,
They're
Chris
even
Sale
on the
should
odds board. Sale clear favorite here right now.
Sale should absolutely be the favorite, and I think that anything plus money is
Yeah,
with
I'm
him.
going to take that tonight. That's one of these that I'm definitely firing on. Chris Sale plus 150. They're basically even. Yesterday, it was like Wheeler plus 120, Sale plus 175. I think with that Wheeler injury news, he's obviously going to get one less start than Sale the rest of the way.
Yeah.
It may even be more. So, yeah.
The only dark horse I would look at in this race is Logan Webb, who has pitched
Mm.
the most innings in the National League and will probably finish with the most innings. And he could get like if he gets enough batted ball luck on the road, he's going to continue to dominate at home. And by the end of the season, he could pitch 230 innings with a sub-3 ERA. And so that's the one guy that could maybe sneak in there, but otherwise, no, it's Chris Sale all the way.
MVP market, American League MVP, Gunnar Henderson currently leads in wins above replacement, and Steamer and Zips both have him finishing ahead of Aaron Judge in end of season WAR. Gunnar plus 350 is the play for me. Soto, Witt, third and fourth, respectively, end of season projections. Interesting thing there. All 4 of those guys, if Shohei Ohtani was in the same league, they'd all be ahead of Ohtani in end of season WAR. The fact that Ohtani doesn't play the field hurts him significantly. Now, Ohtani is minus 300 minus 380 to win the National League, MVP. There's really nobody I'm interested in betting there. We can just kind of combine these two categories. Lindor, Ketel Marte, they're both up there in terms of wins above replacement relative to their odds. Middle infielders never get the award because for hitters, like I said, for pitchers, the second most important stat is strikeouts. For hitters, the second most important stat is OPS ranking. And that the middle infielders just don't get the OPS above like 800, 850. And you need like a minimum 850 to be in consideration. Harper's at 1,000, Ohtani's at 1,000. Like that's the kind of territory you need to be in addition to having the WAR to be in consideration. So nothing for me to add in terms of NL MVP. I think it's Ohtani's to lose at this point. If not, I have some Harper 16-1 that I gave out in the preseason. In the American League, I'm considering playing Gunnar at plus 350. Judge is an injury risk. He is. He said that toe continues to bother him. It's going to be something he manages. He's a foul ball off of it away from missing a couple of weeks. But on top of that, Gunnar is currently ahead of him in wins above replacement, and he's projected to finish ahead of him at the end of the season. So playing shortstop, I think, increases his value, and I think Gunnar Henderson is the bet for AL MVP. Not sure if you have anything in either MVP market, Tanner.
I'll start with the National League MVP because, it's Ohtani. Like I don't think anyone else can catch up to him. The only guy I would maybe look at is Marcell Ozuna, who could get white hot with how, like you've seen it before. Like he has an unbelievable skills with his batted ball profile and just like ability to get white hot. And so that would be the one guy I would look at. But I really do think it's Shohei's to lose, like you said. In the American League, I love Gunnar Henderson. He's hit how many home runs? 27 home runs. He's actually keeping up with Judge in the home run race, despite playing great defense at a premier position. Like he has been.
He had 28 last year. He's 27 already this year.
I think Fangraphs on pace metrics have him for 11.5 WAR. And the last player to post a 12 F4 season was Barry Bonds in 2001. And
when was the last time a shortstop hit 40 home runs? A-Rod? I mean, he's projected to finish with 43 home runs right now. It's
insane. And on top of that,
40 home run seasons as shortstop, you have to be a horrible defender to not win the MVP.
Yeah, and on top of that, he has a leg up on Judge in the MVP race with stolen bases. He's projected to finish with 15 more stolen bases, and runs. He's projected to finish with 20 more runs. And the
divisional lead too.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't hurt.
I mean, the Orioles
doesn't hurt.
The Orioles are a better team than the Yankees. They're more well-rounded. The only dark horse I will mention in this race, and I don't think I'll end up betting him, but I thought about it, was Jarren Duran. And the reason why is that he is a 5-tool player with amazing speed and amazing athleticism, and speed and athleticism translates across every part of your game. So he's going to have a really high WAR floor based on base running and fielding. And what's surprising about him is that his quality of contact numbers actually back up what he's doing on the field. Like his expected weighted on base average is like 5 points higher than his actual weighted on base average. So that's the one guy I'm thinking about, but I don't think he'll end up catching either Henderson or Judge in the race.
Power is not quite at the same level, but it's reminding me of that Jacoby Ellsbury season in 2011 where he just went absolutely bonkers for a year.
Yeah.
Stay healthy, but
look,
Ellsbury, Grady Sizemore, two of the great center fielders we lost to injury over the past couple decades.
When Mookie Betts won the MVP in 2018, I think he had like a 380 BABIP. So who knows? Like if Duran goes on a crazy run with like a 450 BABIP in the second half, who knows?
Yeah, he's really impressed me this year. I think I even said on our preseason AL East pod that I was out on Jarren Duran. I could not have been more wrong. My worst.
Everyone was out on him. When he didn't chase down that fly ball like 2 years ago, and I think it was a series against the Yankees, like everyone wanted him cut, and he's proved everyone wrong. He's been amazing. He's been nothing short of spectacular.
Yeah, spectacular. I think it's sustainable too, at least for a couple of years with his speed. Yeah, big improvements from Jarren Duran and big improvements from the Red Sox this season. I've been very impressed by them organizationally. And it seemed that we ended, Tanner, with a couple of potential consensus bets. Chris Sale plus 175, Gunnar Henderson plus 350, NL Cy Young, AL MVP, respectively. I think we can kind of co-sign on those. I will definitely be adding one, if not both of those, to the app shortly, especially because we discussed them. But I'm sure we'll have more futures coming within the next week, and certainly a futures article for the second half out by Wednesday or Thursday of next week. Don't forget to download the free award-winning Action Network app and leave us that 5-star rating and review wherever you listen to the podcast. Thank you for listening this deep into this depth of a podcast, obviously covering Friday's slate, but also some potential second half futures and a look at the awards market. Make sure to check out the Action Network Discord. I know Billy Ward, Sean Kerner, very active in there. There's a link in the episode description. Make sure to check that out. We'll have coverage, as I said, of the Home Run Derby and the All-Star Game with our regularly scheduled episodes on Monday and Tuesday as normal. Make sure to keep an eye out as well. We're going to be doing a live show on Monday. Myself, Tanner, we're going to be doing a live episode of Playoff Pitch, which I'm sure you can catch in the Action Network app and also on YouTube. And for Tanner McGrath, I'm Sean Zerillo. Thank you so much for listening to this special edition episode of Payoff Pitch, Action Network's MLB betting podcast, presented by BetMGM. Good luck with all of your bets this weekend, and we'll see you Monday for the Home Run Derby.